SmartSpin2k Companion App that's brand new, about to be released on the Apple Store and Google Play Store here fairly shortly. It's in addition to our web-based configuration utility that we have, only the app uses Bluetooth to communicate with the SmartSpin2k versus Wi-Fi. So you don't have to worry about any issues with 2.4 gigahertz hotspots and entering in your SSID and some of the other troubles that users have had along the way. This just uses Bluetooth, and you'll see here once we open up the app that you just basically click scan, and if you have a SmartSpin2k that's nearby, you'll be able to connect to it and configure it. So we'll go through and open up the app here. And right away we come to the scan screen here. And all you do is you just press the scan button, and you see my SmartSpin2k that I have here close pops up with the signal strength at full bars. You'll see that go up and down if you're closer or further away. If you tap on this, you can get a direct readout of the signal strength right there. 50 is about the best you'll have. 100 is pretty bad. So we just hit connect. And again, on the left-hand side, left of device, you'll see 3 bars right there that are green. That means it's good. It'll go all the way down to a red X. So that's your signal strength. First, we can go into the virtual shifter here. And this, if you don't want to use the hardwired buttons that came with your SmartSpin2k, you can shift with this. It's also kind of handy just to have in front of you sometimes when you're riding, because as you shift with your regular hardwired shifters, you'll see this number go up and down as well. So it's kind of nice sometimes to know which gear you're in. If we go back, we'll go into where most everything is in this app right now. And that's on the settings page here. And so if you go through, we'll see if I can wake up my pedals, and they're awake. So if we go into power meter, you'll see that it comes up, and you can hit the scan button, and there's my Asoma power meter pedals that just showed up. So you click that, and you'll see that it comes up in the line up above, and then you can just hit save. As far as the heart rate monitor goes, and now we'll hit scan, and there you see the heart rate monitor showed up, and just tap it, and then when we hit save, that'll save it for the next reboot. Next up, we have shift step, and what this does is basically every time you press the up button or the down button on the shifters, either the virtual shifter on this app or the shifters that are hardwired into your SmartSpin2k, this is how much it adjusts the knob. 1000 is a good starting point for most bikes. Like if you have an IC4, like, I don't know, 1200 is probably a pretty good number, anywhere around there. So you can just slide this to wherever you want and then click save. Swap shifter direction. What this does is for the hardwired shifters, if when you press the button it doesn't go the right direction, you can change it here. So basically what this is for is, depending on the orientation that you mount your shifters, you might, physically have up being down in the app or down being up in the app. And if that happens, if that's the orientation that you want, then you can just easily change it here. So on and off just means basically, are we changing the direction of the shifters? Incline multiplier. This is basically just like the difficulty, it's like a trainer difficulty on Zwift. It's kind of the same thing. So this is how much we change the stepper motor for gradient. So if you slide this to the right, as you start going up a hill, the resistance is going to increase a lot more than it would if you had this way down here at 3. So a good spot for that, like on the IC4 again, a lot of bikes is right around 5. ERG sensitivity, what this does is every time we get a new set point for ERG mode, which is your trainer workout modes where it'll tell you to pedal at, 150 watts for 2 minutes, and then it'll change and say do 300 watts for a minute. We use a built-in table to automatically seek to those big changes. But what the ERG sensitivity does is when the little changes happen, say you only have a 20 watt change, or if you speed up your pedaling and then slow down your pedaling without a set point target change, that's where we use this. And this basically is the aggressiveness of how fast the stepper motor is going to adjust to your pedaling. What works here well is to increase this up to the point on where you're almost getting oscillations where it's kind of going above and below your set point target, and then just back it off a little bit. On any of these, as soon as you release the button, the value gets sent to the SmartSpin2k, but it only gets sent there for the immediate session. If you want the value to last, through the next reboot, that's when you can press the save button. All right, name of SmartSpin2k. So what this is it's your device name. So if you're connected to Wi-Fi, this is the URL that you're going to use to find your SmartSpin2k. So right now, with the name of SmartSpin2k, you will go to smartspin2k.local to connect to the web interface for the SmartSpin2k. If you changed this to, like Smart Bike, and then hit save, now on the next reboot here, you'd have to reboot the unit to get the new Wi-Fi settings, but then you would go to smartbike.local to find your SmartSpin2k. When you change this here, it will also change the Bluetooth name of the device. So when you go to connect to your SmartSpin2k on Zwift, then Smart Bike would show up in the devices menu versus SmartSpin2k. All right, so stepper power. Most of the time you should be able to leave this at 900. This is basically the milliamps that we're using to power the stepper motor. You want to keep this as low as possible without the motor slipping, just because the unit runs a little bit cooler and it's more energy efficient and everything. When the motor isn't running, it does power down, so you don't have to worry about this using a lot of power all of the time. But where you might need to increase this is especially if you have like a friction bike, anything that uses felt, then feel free to crank it all the way up to 2000 if you need. But again, for the most part, 900 seems to work just fine for basically any magnetic resistance bike. Next, Stealth Chop. What this does is it just makes the motor run a little bit quieter. It basically makes it completely silent. If you leave this off, you'll hear like kind of the typical stepper motor sound, like, might be dating myself, but old disk drives would make, kind of a grinding, chattering sound. That's basically what Stealth Chop being on gets rid of. Now, the benefit to having it off again is if you have a friction-based bike with felt pads on it, you do get a little more torque out of the stepper motor if you have this off. So it'll turn those harder to turn knobs better. Power correction factor. What this is basically for any spin bikes that you might have connected, the IC4 is kind of the big one, or other power sources. Doesn't have to be a spin bike. But like with the IC4, if you have one, the power that it reports is significantly higher than your actual pedaling watts. So what you can do for the IC4, what works pretty well, it kind of depends on your cadence, but anywhere between like 0.7 and 0.80. And if you want to get these right on any of these settings, you can just do that and then hit save. And then what that'll do will basically take the power that is getting reported by your bike and multiply it by 0.8. So if the bike said that you were pedaling at 100 watts, now the SmartSpin2k would say that you're pedaling at 80 watts, and it would send that out to Zwift. Auto updates. What this does is it turns on and off the automatic firmware updates from GitHub. So when we have a new firmware version that we determine is stable enough to send out an auto update for, it gets uploaded to GitHub. And then if this auto update switch is on, the next time your unit reboots, it's going to automatically update to the newest firmware. Sometimes if you have a firmware that you like, or if you happen to be running a custom firmware, you can select that off and it shouldn't update on the next reboot. Wi-Fi SSID. So this is the SSID of your home Wi-Fi network. Just keep in mind that it has to be a 2.4 gigahertz network. And this is for the SmartSpin2k itself. It has nothing to do with the app. So if whatever your home network is, you would type that in here, and then what that allows it to do is the automatic updates, and then as well as updating the web pages, and then also you'll be able to get to the SmartSpin2k web interface on your local network if you use that to connect to your local network. Wi-Fi password, same thing. It's just the password and for your local network. Stepper motor speed. This one is new for the app. It's the top speed of the motor. So the acceleration values are kind of the same. The motor, or you'll see if it's a small change, you might not notice this much. But if you're doing bigger changing ERG workouts, say, where you're at 100 watts and then it wants you to pedal at 500 watts for 30 seconds. A, you're a monster, and B, if you bump that up to 3,500, the top speed of the stepper motor is going to be almost 3 times faster than it was before. Previously, we always just used 1,500 for this value. But it looks like if you have a magnetic bike, you can use that all the way up to 3,000 if you want, and it'll work pretty good. Min brake watts, and then the following one, max brake watts. These tend to confuse people a little bit, but it's really a pretty simple idea here. It's if you pedal at 90 RPM, what is the least amount of wattage that your bike is going to report? So like if you have your resistance knob turned all the way to the left, how many watts does your bike show? And what we use these for are just to calculate resistance limits, stepper motor position limits, so that the SmartSpin2k doesn't hit one stop and keep grinding. It uses the setting to dynamically calculate. It's always calculating where is the minimum set point, so I don't go past that. You can, most of the time, 50 watts is pretty good for most bikes. The one that does change, though, a bit is max brake watts. So a lot of times it seems like you probably want this set a little bit higher than what your actual max watts on your bike can be. And what this max watts, again, is not what you can put out. It would be what you know, what anybody could put out if you turned your resistance knob all the way clockwise to the right as far as it goes, and then you pedaled at 90 RPM, how many watts would be reported by your bike. And again, what this does is it's just a set point. So like if you shift up a whole bunch, it'll actually stop the shifter before it hits that, or it stops the stepper motor before it hits that end stop and grinds up against it. On my IC4, I actually use 1400 watts for that. And that's everything inside of the settings. Those are all pretty straightforward. I guess one other thing I should mention too, if you click on the SmartSpin itself up here at the top, you'll see another little menu pops up with connect, refresh, set to defaults, save to SmartSpin2k, backup settings, and load backup. Starting at the bottom here, backup settings is kind of nice. So what this button does is it takes all of the settings that you currently have down here and it saves them to your phone or whatever you're using the app on. And then that way, and hit load backup, and the settings will get loaded and applied. Refresh. What refresh does is it just reloads all of the settings off your SmartSpin2k. And reboot will just reboot your SmartSpin2k, and it attempts to auto connect to the SmartSpin2k again as well after a few seconds. And if it doesn't auto connect after the reboot, then that's what the connect button is for. All right, then update firmware. So this is pretty self-explanatory. Right now, I really still recommend that if you have web access to update it through the web interface, mostly because it's faster and there's a little more error checking on the TCP protocol than we have over Bluetooth. However, that said, I've done a lot of firmware updates testing this Bluetooth, and other than it's slower, it seems to be fairly reliable. I haven't had any aborts really. So you've got three options here, and using the app bundled firmware, choosing it off of your device, or just using the last firmware from GitHub. So the one from GitHub, that's just going to download it onto your phone off of the internet, and then it's going to upload it to the device. The app bundled firmware, every version of this app will have a firmware that's included with it, and that will get uploaded from the device, or choose the firmware from the dialog. So I'll just go through, click app bundled firmware, and confirm the dialog here that this could take a while. Don't reset your device or do anything in the meantime. So hit confirm. And the first step while it's sending the first couple of packets and getting the unit into firmware update mode take a second, and then here we go. It's just going through with the update. And then once that finishes, you'll just see there will be a pop-up that says firmware update complete, and you'll just tap that and you'll be done. And that's the SmartSpin2k Companion App. Hopefully everybody likes it. I think it's a great step forward in easily configuring the SmartSpin2k versus doing it over the web interface. There's still a few things that the web interface has. Mostly it's all stuff in the developer options. Otherwise, yeah, the app is great. I really recommend it. Have a great day.